I think it's safe to say that life after Sean Payton for the New Orleans Saints in 2022 probably went about it how you would envision or expect it would. It's a bit of a bumpy ride. You might have an occasional flash of something really good, and then you have some really bad play, and they just end up kind of being a middle-of-the-road team. I mean, it's about what you would expect, wouldn't you think? I mean, what did you think, that Dennis Allen was going to make some magic happen? That Dennis Allen was going to be some type of miracle worker? Ugh. Ugh, right? I mean, I don't know what you could have really expected here, but certainly shouldn't have been high expectations for the Saints team heading into 2022, and they managed to live up to it. And when you look at this Saints team, it's, you know, when you look at what went wrong, Jameis Winston got hurt after a few games, went down, Andy Dalton took over. Andy Dalton kept the job even once Jameis Winston stopped being hurt. So you say, well, Andy Dalton wasn't terrible in his time for the Saints. Yeah, he wasn't terrible, but he also wasn't great. Furthermore, you know what Andy Dalton is in his mid-30s. You could maybe still have an illusion of a hope of a chance that Jameis Winston could be that dude. You should be rolling with Jameis to see if you've got somebody there in the future. Because if you don't, which they don't now, you're a team that's got a guy that you're paying a bunch of money in Taysom Hill to be a gadget dude, masquerading as a sporadic quarterback sometimes. You got Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston. You're going no fucking where. You have no real hope for the future. You're just going to toil away the next couple of years and absolutely fucking suck. And you look at them this year. They only went 2-4 in the scrub-ass NFC South. That was a crappy division. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won it, and they won the division with a losing record. And even then, the Saints found a way to only win 2 out of 6 games in that damn division. That's some scrub-ass behavior. And for a team for so many years that you were used to being able to score points, get yards offensively, they had 9 games where they scored 20 points or less. You had the Jameis injury. You only got 3 games out of Michael Thomas. It's like, hey, new year, new or same old injury for frickin' Michael Thomas. Either way, he's going to spend the majority of the year on the damn injury list. And it makes you wonder if he's played his last down in New Orleans. Certainly would think that he has. But a lot went wrong for the Saints, and you certainly feel it, right? Like, they're not a crap, one of the worst teams in the league. They are in the worst possible spot you could be. Freaking mediocre. Somewhere between the 10th to 18th worst team in the league, depending upon your perspective. They're no shot at a championship, no shot at the number 1 overall pick. Just going to continue to spin their damn wheels. Now, they had some things go right this year. You would certainly hope the defense would have played well with Dennis Allen at the helm. And they certainly did. Like, that was the thing the last few years of Drew Brees and Sean Payton in New Orleans. It wasn't so much the strength of the offense that carried him. It was really the strength of the defense. It was the defense that put him in that spot. So that was an underrated Saints defense. I mean, that was a pretty good unit. And they played well enough at times in 2022 again. You know, Chris Olave had a great rookie season. You know, when you talk about a guy like him in the spot that he was in to go over 1,000 yards receiving, that's pretty impressive shit. It wasn't like he had prime Drew Brees throwing to him. It wasn't like he had, you know, a super talented quarterback throwing to him. He had Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton throughout the year. That's not exactly going to beat the dust off of anybody's dick. And then also, if you look at some things that went positively for the Saints, they did beat a couple of playoff teams during the season. They beat the Seattle Seahawks. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles. So maybe if you wanted to dilute yourself, if you're a Saints fan, into thinking that this team could make some type of turnaround next year, you probably hang your hat on a couple of things. One is maybe they'll find a veteran that's a little bit better at the quarterback position in the offseason. 2, you get another pretty good season out of the defense. 3, Chris Olave takes a step forward and becomes a star next year. Kamara stays healthy the entire year, and he has a kind of monster year. Like, I suppose you could sit there and convince yourself, or try to convince yourself, that these guys could have a bit of a bounce back next year, especially because you look at that division, and that division is still trash. That division is absolutely there for the taking. But do you feel that confident that the Saints are going to be the ones to step up into the void? I don't know about all that. What I see for me when I think about the Saints is a team that I just don't see a lot of pathways or avenues for them to get much better. They're way over the salary cap again. And yes, every year they seem to find a way to have some type of tricks that they could do, some maneuvering, some kicking the can down the road to create enough cap space so they can stay legal, stay under the cap for the season that they're going into. But that shit is only sustainable for so long. And at some point in time, those chickens are absolutely going to come home to roost. And you're going to have to figure out a way to bite that bullet. You can only kick that can so far down the road. And, if anything, this would absolutely be the perfect time for the Saints to really try to bottom out. It means trading Cameron Jordan, that's what you freaking do. That means you trade Alvin Kamara, that's exactly what you do. You don't trade Chris Olave, but you maybe look to get rid of some of the offensive linemen. You've got some assets on that team. Find out what somebody's willing to give up for them, because this team, the way it's constructed, is not going anywhere. I think Marcus Davenport's a free agent. And, you look at the Saints and you say, why aren't they a better team? It's not just Drew Brees retiring. It's not just Sean Payton retiring and going away for a year. It's shit like making a big trade up the draft board a few years back to draft Marcus Davenport. You traded up almost 14, 15 slots in round one to draft a defensive end with almost zero explosiveness. It's not a good move. And you get some of that from them. And you also look at the Saints here. Another big problem for them is they don't have a first-round pick because of all their damn maneuvering last year. And you look at their draft last year and you say, what the fuck were you guys doing? You really liked Olave, fine, but damn, did you really have to move up like that? Was it really worth you not having a first-round pick? Christ almighty. Yeah, I envision the Saints are going to try and win more games than they really should in 2023. What 2023 should be about is trying to find a way to lose a bunch of games so you can find an excuse to fire Dennis Allen, bring in an offensive-minded head coach, and then try to draft somebody like Caleb Williams or Drake May or another quarterback with one of the top picks in the 2024 NFL draft. Because until the Saints get that long-term answer at the quarterback position, like they had for a decade and a half with Drew Brees, they're going nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Jim Mora is not walking back through that door with the Dome Patrol and Ricky Jackson and Sam Mills and Pat Swilling. That shit ain't happening. At this point, Christ, if you're the Saints, you probably would settle for a year or two of Aaron Brooks. No, I don't know if you go that low, but yeah. Saints were about what you would expect them to be in 2023 and only see the needle pointing down from here. Or in 2022, I only see the needle pointing down from here going into 2023.